So, after Halo CE came out and rocked the world from top to bottom with its inventive gameplay and genre-defining mechanics, its story, its characters, its fucking twin sticks? Microsoft, the fans, and even Bungie themselves were insatiable with their need for a new game. So, the team got to work, and in 3 devastatingly short years, we would get it. Halo 2. A game that is said to be one of the greatest of all time. It got mostly perfect scores all around the industry, and the multiplayer became a cornerstone for not just online play, but competitive gaming as a whole. There were even a bunch of crazy ass promotions being done, such as a whole ass alternate reality game based in a URL that was revealed at the end of Halo 2's theatrical trailer, known as I Love Bees, which at first seemed to just be a website about beekeeping turned into this viral thing where players all around the globe had to work together to solve puzzles, to reveal new bits of information about Halo 2. They even went as far as to release navigational coordinates and times to be at those places, so that the players would find phone booths and speak answers directly to a pre-recorded message, which is wild on its own. But then you add in the time a player stood his ground in Florida against a Category 4 fucking hurricane just to answer into the booth. 1, that guy is fucking awesome and a true testament to the Florida Man legend. 2, shout out to the operator who broke character just to tell him, "Dude, it's a hurricane, put the phone down." Like he doesn't already fucking know that. I hope that bastard got a signed copy by Master Chief himself for that shit. Also, fuck I Love Bees, man. Y'all just couldn't change the location for the riddle? I think a hurricane's a pretty good reason to call shit off. But then again, if they had, this man wouldn't live in his glory, so I don't know. Apparently there was a recording of this interaction, but like most of this stuff, it was lost to time, as most great legends go. Though their spirit and their soul tends to always remain. Shout out to that guy who fought a fucking hurricane all to hear what is essentially a Snapple fact about Halo 2. You, sir, are an inspiration and will forever have my respect. Oh, shit, right, we're talking about a video game. Hold on. When development of Halo 2 started, the team at Bungie already had some ideas and improvements that they really wanted to add to it. Most of which just being ideas that were scrapped during Halo CE's rushed development, such as the online multiplayer. But all that really wasn't enough to satiate them. They wanted to make everything at least 3 times better. Better visuals, better gameplay, better music, the whole shebang. And they would do anything to make this dream a reality. And so the monkey paw curled. The game was officially revealed in September of 2002, with a release date planned to be winter 2003, only 2 years after the original. It did not make that. They did, however, have the game's first gameplay showing be in 2003, where it took place at E3, where Johnson uttered the now infamous quote.
"This is a real-time feed. No smoke and mirrors pre-recorded bullshit."
It was entirely smoke and mirrors. Hold on a minute, Chubby. Oh, look, a recurring bit. We all know about Halo 2's development and how awful it was. Do you really need to go through it like you did in the first video? Well, you know what? I guess you're right. Yeah, I know I'm right. Everybody knows this shit. You don't have to. So instead of all of it, we're just gonna cover some bullet points. Wait, now hold on a minute, because I don't think y'all really understand how bad this shit was. 1. There was no one plan. Like the first game, the idea started in multiple smaller circles before coming together and clashing in the dev room. But unlike last time, there was no direct leadership. One of the co-founders of Bungie left, and the other one was burnt the fuck out after last time. It was an absolute war zone of ideas. Then 2, they completely remade their engine so that they can make the better game, which is when Microsoft comes in and is like, hey, I heard you're doing an online multiplayer. That would be perfect for my Xbox Live service coming out in 8 months. Do you think you can have it ready by then? Dude, we just fucking started up. Well, we own you, so you're gonna be forced to do it. We just need the studio head to give his vote on the matter, but we can't seem to find him. I will jump off this fucking building. He did not threaten to jump off the building. I will leave this fucking company if you don't give them more time. Fine, but only a year. But CE took like 8. Not my problem. 3, the story was getting fucking crazy due to the stress and a writer's recent breakup. It got to the point where Key's daughter straps a bomb to Master Chief and then shoves him into a portal as revenge for her father's death. That is crazy, but not as crazy as the fact that they, 4, after showing the E3 2003 gameplay trailer, pretty much just scrapped and redid most of the game after realizing that most of those last 2 years worth of work was unusable. And they weren't allowed to release it on the upcoming 360 in 2005. So it had to be out in holiday season 2004, leading to 5, the mother of all crunches. The team sacrificed so much of their lives for this game. The design lead had to kennel his dog for 2 months, and he and most of the staff had to sleep under their desks in the final days before the game went gold. 6. This is not even the tip of this iceberg. There was so much that they had to cut to get this game out. They started with lofty hopes but ended in what they thought was a shallow game. A shadow of what they wanted. I honestly thought that nobody was going to buy it, because the stuff we had to do at the end of the project felt so gut-wrenching. But luckily, nobody saw how it was before, so for them, it was like all the stuff we took out just doesn't exist. That quote is from Paul Bertoni, the design lead who had to kennel his dog and sleep under his desk, and would eventually go on to compare the development to a death march. Just about the whole team had a similar thought behind this game's development. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's how it goes. Could you imagine if they never spoke out about this game's development? Most of the community would have never known, as this game was considered a masterpiece with a few little valid complaints. If they never spoke out and weren't as open as they were about all the crunches, I think our views on crunch as a whole would be a lot less developed than it is. Which, you know, is really saying something, because it's not exactly great right now either. I don't feel like continuing this bit. Can I just... Yeah, man, don't worry, your check's in the mail. If you ever find the time, I really recommend the official documentary on Bungie's YouTube channel. It leaves a lot of the worst parts of the development out, but it still couldn't hide all of it. It's actually a really eerie watch, as it sort of acts like a timeline for the dev team at the start and at the end of development. And knowing what I know now, it's almost like a found footage horror movie about a team in the depths of development hell. Ooh, now that's really scary. Good thing I was already watching this on Halloween. The most disturbing part, which is entirely unintentional, I'm sure, was when it was playing that 2000 song that goes, "The reason is you," over the fans cheering over the demo. Like, God bless, that's super fucked. Yeah, I have no idea how to transition away from this, so let's get into gameplay! Yay! So Halo 2's gameplay is quite the step up from CE, in some ways. In a few other ways, it's kind of like a little worse. But the basics are pretty much the same. It's a first-person shooter inspired by Doom, but it's much slower paced and has a more cover-based, what's the word, layout? Level design. This time, however, we are without a health bar, with Chief and our new character using only their shields as their protection. The shield this time around actually recharges a lot faster to compensate, but it also drops a lot faster, so I think the shields are a bit too weak in my opinion, which on its own isn't really that much of an issue, but combined with the more aggressive enemies and the lack of cover in some sections, I do think it makes the game a lot more challenging in a way that I'm not entirely sure was intended. Though I do like how this change will simplify the health system in later titles. It's just the first outing is kind of eh. We got a few new weapons, including the battle rifle, which pretty much just replaces the pistol from here on out as the main weapon the player will use for long to mid-range encounters. As a gun, I really appreciate its sleek design and its 3-burst fire, really setting itself apart from the CE pistol, which needed to be nerfed quite severely to make room for the newest mechanic added to combat. Dual wielding. This new mechanic basically allows the player to use 2 different weapons at the same time as long as they fall within the dual wielding class. You can't dual wield sniper rifles or shotguns, but you can dual wield pistols, which, yeah, I can kinda see why you'd want to nerf that. Can you imagine a double CE pistol? Yeesh. Or we got weapons like the new SMG, which replaces the AR as Chief's main close-up attacker, especially if you pair it with a Covenant weapon to shred meat and shields at the same time. Now, the concept of dual wielding has been quite controversial in Halo for some time now, with some feverishly wanting its return in a new title, and others just kind of wanting it to stay gone for good, due to how it really nerfs certain weapons into obscurity. If you ask me, I kind of agree that it needs to stay gone, or at least come back with a little bit of a rework. I understand why it's so beloved. It is extremely cool on paper, with how you're basically using 2 different guns at once from a wide selection, and the outcome being dependent on the combo, which is a really fun idea, and y'all already know how much I love creative gameplay like this. But to have it, you need to nerf the dual wielding weapons into oblivion so it's not the only thing people use. Let's go back to the pistol. I understand you want to make the BR seem like a good option, so you nerf its competitor who was wildly broken last time. Especially now that you can dual wield said competitor, I really do understand that. But the damn thing is worthless now. On its own, you're not killing much outside of a grunt or 2 with a headshot or 2, as anything bigger will take the whole clip and then some to kill, even while dual wielding. And in multiplayer, you might as well not pick the bastard up at all unless you care to hit 8 consecutive headshots with 2 of them. Why even have the bastard at this point? Just cut it if you're gonna make it this bad. All the dual weapons are nerfed to be half as effective as they were before, so if you only got like a single one of these weapons, it may be better not to use it at all. Especially if you want to use another gun like the battle rifle or shotgun, cause you drop the offhanded weapon when you switch to it, which is really fucking stupid. Can you not just carry 3 guns, dude? Like all that billion-dollar armor and 3 guns is too fucking much. I will admit, I am a bit biased because I am a huge pistol fan, and I think it could have been fine alongside the BR as it was in CE. With a few little nerfs, just shorten the range and axe the scope, it could have been fine. But it wasn't only the new dual wielding weapons that got nerfed, my poor shotgun got it so bad. This thing feels like it should have the nerf label on the side of it, the way it just barely peppers enemies anymore. The fuck am I gonna use in close range now? Oh, fuck. Yep, that's right, we get the addition of the energy sword in this game. This close range weapon is practically unbeatable in close range, with its one-hit kill only being blocked by a sword of your own, or a quick dodge from you, the player. Or maybe if the lunge decides to be a bit wonky, it'll do that from time to time. But beware, as that same wonky lunge can turn this weapon from a close-range combatant to a mid-range massacre. This puppy is as dangerous as it is fucking cool. I love that this weapon is now usable. I guess the only thing to really mention weapon-wise would be the rockets now having a homing option, but I didn't really find this particularly useful. I can kind of see why they got rid of it. Vehicle-wise, we actually got a few new ones, in the now drivable Covenant tank, the Wraith, plus their own Warthog in the Spectre. A new variation on the Warthog called the Gauss Hog, which replaces the Rocket Hog, which kinda makes me a little sad, but that railgun is way better. The Ghost and the Banshee now have their signature boost abilities, which is cool. And I guess there are some other vehicles we could discuss, but they're mostly just set dressings for levels they appear in. Yeah, I'm including this big bitch in there as well. Don't worry though, we'll get to her. The Covenant this time around worked the same as ever, this time with two new types of troops. Drones, which are pretty much just flying grunts, which instantly makes them 20 times more threatening, which is probably why they're never paired up with any other enemies now that I think about it. And brutes, which are essentially just elites, except they got a rage mode that makes them charge at you, which is kind of annoying, but I honestly really dig their Yeti type look and savage mannerisms, especially compared to the elite's honor and elegance. Though we'll go into more about these two later. Brutes and elites, that is. The bugs are just kind of there, story-wise. This game was also the first to introduce the skulls into the series, which allowed you to remix the campaign with certain effects to make the game more challenging or funnier or both, so go wild with these, I love them. The visuals this time around are kind of... okay, look, I admit that I am a sucker for those old blocky designs. I think they'll always have that classic video game look, you know? It's the simplicity, it's the bright colors, it's the funny movements, it's the fact that as a game dev in training, they're way easier to make in Blender or Blockbench. It's for a lot of valid reasons, and I'm sure somebody can say the same about these graphics, because for the time they were groundbreaking, but man, did realistic games tend to age like dirt. I'm not going to sit here and insult this though, that is completely unfair to everyone involved and the game itself. But I'm not really a fan of how awkward this game can look sometimes, and I'm not talking about how the models or the art style don't age as gracefully as their more blocky counterparts. That stuff is all fine, honestly, and I really do think this game can be very impressive at points. I don't hate how it looks. Except for that dank-ass color palette they have for a lot of the game. It's either that metallic-ass gray or that shitty tan filter you see in movies when they go to Mexico or something. Where's all the fun colors from last time? Where's my green, my purple? Why is the Covenant using burgundy now? And why is there dust in the goddamn spaceship? Look, they'll use a much better palette in some areas, mostly later in the game, and those look fucking brilliant. But that early game looks rough. I know the first half is set in this war-torn desert city and a dusty-looking gas world, but put some diversity in there. Nobody said a gas giant had to be piss yellow. And real-life Mombasa is not a deserty place, bro. It's a tropical beach resort. The fuck happened in 800... Oh. I'm not gonna call the graphics bad, especially if we want to talk art style or architecture. I think those are very well done, to be honest. But this look for a good chunk of the game is just so... Part of the reason is a cool shading technique they wanted to use, but they never got it to work, so they had to ship the game as is. Sadly, like most of the problems in this game, I don't think it was the developer's intention. Oh boy, we're getting sad again. Alright, let's move on to music. Now, I'm not even sure if I should even put these sections of my videos in this Halo retrospective, since they all boil down to me just praising and hyping it up like it's the best shit ever, which it fucking is, by the way. I mean, damn, that new version of the Halo theme with the guitar riff, oh, fucking euphoric. And don't get me started on how they got Breaking Benjamin to write, "Blow me away, I will stay in the mess I'm in." If you somehow never heard this song, I absolutely recommend it. The instrumental version they played during that one level was like fucking magic. Though I don't understand why it never got released outside of the Halo 2 soundtrack till like 2010. I'm not a music guy, so y'all have to let me know if that's how things usually go for the industry. I guess the only other song I want to speak on is this one from the Banshee section in the early game called Follow. I actually really like the song, but it's so strange hearing something like it in Halo. Like, honestly, if I just played this song to you without the footage or the overall context, would you be able to tell? The funny thing is that 2 Annversary actually changed the song quite a bit, calling it now Follow in Flight. And I think this is one of the only songs they did that to. It's much more heavier, I guess. Either way, both versions are good. It's just so strange to hear this kind of music in Halo. But maybe that's just me not listening to all the soundtracks enough. Speaking on Annversary, you're probably wondering how well it worked out this time. Well, my friends, Saber knocked it out of the goddamn park. Grand slammed this bitch. The game looks fucking beautiful. All the sound effects got redone to be more verbose with modern hardware. They even got Blur Studios, who's worked on everything from Sonic to the Avengers, to do all of the cutscenes, including new ones they added to tie into the upcoming Halo 5, which we'll get there.
Damn it.
This is how you do a remaster, paying respects to the original game by updating it with modern visuals that enhance what was there before. Sure, there are some liberties taken, but nothing that's more than a minor nitpick. Though I really don't mind when liberties are taken, it's just important that they fit what the game is, you know? The gameplay isn't hampered in any way by mismatched geometry or bland color schemes. This remaster actually fixes a lot, if not all of my problems with the game visually, especially when we get to some of the later parts. I think you could say that this is the definitive way to play Halo 2, and little to no one would argue that. This is a fantastic remaster that took everything that worked with the first one and fixed what didn't, while also respecting the original game's vision. I don't know how different the development was for this game, but with the quality of the content given, I'd say it must have been a lot more forgiving than last time. Or at least I hope so. Not every second verse needs to be same as the first, if you catch my drift. Those cutscenes though are probably the best Halo has ever looked in like anything. It's a little jarring when it switches back to the in-game graphics, but who cares, they both look so good! And if that wasn't enough, we get a full Halo 2 Annversary multiplayer, with weapons from later games added in, all kinds of new customization options, including a wild as hell bio armor, some Gundam armor, the OG Chief design, and a full Forge mode. God bless! But hey, speaking of multiplayer, this is the game that introduced the Xbox Live functionality to the franchise, allowing console players to talk shit and battle each other over the internet. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, with tons of racial slurs. Though I wouldn't know, as my first online game was Splatoon, and that thankfully didn't have voice chat. Though thinking of those squids shouting slurs is kind of funny. What, you thought I was gonna actually make them say slurs? Hell no, they're just doing their little squeaky squish noises, you fucking freak. Though nowadays, if you decide to play multiplayer, it's actually quite rare to find anybody still being a little bitch in the chat. Well, not that rare. Remember kids, don't be like Cupcake here when you can be like Jeb instead.
The Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash.
But what I really want to talk about multiplayer-wise is how this game and Smash Melee pretty much brought on esports as we know it. The first televised event of the sport was in 2002 with MLG, but things didn't really get happening till about 2006, and guess who was right there in the limelight? Halo 2 has been described by many fans and devs alike as the catalyst for modern online multiplayer gaming, which led it to get huge in not just the casual scene but the tournament scene as well, especially with how games like Halo 2 and Melee had such high skill ceilings, with not just their base gameplay but the more advanced techniques that you usually only see the best of the best do. In Halo 2's case, it's button combos. These were to Halo as wave dashing was to Smash. They're not really included in the modern scenes, but back then they were crazy techniques that the devs didn't plan on including. But yet still they changed how the entire game was played. To some for the better and to others for the worst. I'm not gonna weigh in on this as I'm not really a competitive gamer, though I did consider it for one certain fighting game, but that never ended up happening. Though the history of Halo can't really be discussed without its place in the competitive scenes. Again, for better or worse. But it's pretty much a mainstay from here on, and you have 2 to thank for that. But how do I feel about 2's multiplayer, Annversary included? It's good. It's not really my favorite out of the Halo lineup, but I have a lot of fun with it. I know that's really short compared to how much I went into Halo 1's, multiplayer. But like I said before, that's like one of my favorite ones. This one, I really shouldn't rank these. I'm gonna get blasted in the comments if I do. And with that, it's time for story, and oh boy. If the last one needed 2 spoiler warnings, this one's gonna probably take like 5 at least. But fuck it, I'm just gonna put 1. Skip here to avoid all story spoilers for Halo 2 and Halo 2 Annversary. Seriously, this has been described as the best story in the series, and I think it's important you play through it for yourself first. Though whether you agree or not on it being the best story, I definitely think we can all agree that it's very thought-provoking. We start on a destroyed Halo ring, watching as the Covenant retreat to their HQ, a space station city battle fortress known as High Charity. Here we see the leader of the Covenant operations on the ring being dragged to these important looking Brachiosaurus slug people that are the heads of the Covenant, known as the Prophets. They discuss the failure of this elite, and the Covenant and the crowd are not happy at all that he let the ring, which is apparently a huge part of their religious great journey, get destroyed. The elite begs to have a second chance against the humans, but is denied. He failed, and when the great journey comes, he will be left behind. We then switch things over to the Chief on a space station in orbit of the planet Earth, where he is currently getting a new set of armor after the adventure last time caused severe damage to his old one. Ah, here she is, the main look for Chief going forward. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the OG look for Master Chief, but this new one is iconic. It's so damn cool, so I can't help but love the redesign. After getting all situated, Johnson comes in to pick up his date for the special ceremony being held for those who fought on the ring.
So, Johnson, when you gonna tell me how you made it back home in one piece?
Sorry, Guns. It's classified.
My ass!
For real though, how did you get your ass off that ring? And did you bring your new friend with you? You two seem to have a lot of chemistry. Chief and Johnson head to a tram and they discuss how long it's been since they both seen Earth, and how this new defense grid they're standing on is an amazing deterrent against any sort of Covenant invasion. Well, I say discuss, but Chief as usual is pretty silent during this part. The two make it to the ceremony where they meet up with their old friend Cortana.
You look nice.
Thank you.
And 2 new characters in Lord Hood, the head of the UNSC, and Amanda Keyes, the daughter of Captain Keyes from the first game, who is here to collect a medal in his stead. Back on the other side of the galaxy, as our heroes from last time gain their medals, this elite seems to be losing his as he's being tortured to a roaring crowd of onlookers, directly paralleling the heroes getting their cheers from a happy crowd. Though things don't stay happy for long as a Covenant armada shoot in from slipspace heading towards the planet Earth. Keyes, Chief, and Johnson jump into action to fight off the Covenant, while Cortana stays behind to play with her brand new toy, a 120-foot railgun that packs a serious punch. After an interesting level that involves us killing the Covenant in the hangars and taking a spacewalk around the giant gun, the first part of this conflict ends with the Chief grabbing a Covenant nuke and riding it into a nearby cruiser. After that, the fight is taken to Earth, where the Covenant seems to be excavating around a nearby city, though Cortana seems to be picking up a strange signal coming from their comms. One thing they learned from this signal is that this invasion is much smaller than the one on Reach, which is odd for an attack on what they should know to be the human homeworld. But she's also hearing a single word be repeated: regret.
Humanity. We regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth.
And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
At the same time, our elite friend is brought before the Prophets once again, who are as slimy as they are manipulative, using the elite's want for redemption to place the mantle of Arbiter upon him, effectively making him a suicide trooper to be sent in on their most dangerous missions. His first one being going to slay a true heretic who seems to be inciting rebellion. Arbiter, which is how we'll refer to him from now on, is given a troop of soldiers to fight alongside him, though they're not exactly cool with him at first, and the Arbiter going through his own guilt trip kinda agrees with them.
These are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not. That makes two of us.
He's not really feeling his Sunday best right now. Once they make it to the base of the heretic, they start going through it, and oh yeah, we actually get to play as the Arbiter. There's not really much different between him and Chief except for the HUD, and Arbiter having a brief invisibility that he can activate for a few seconds, but hell yeah, playable elites! And you even can be one in multiplayer, minus the invisibility of course. This is another thing that fans want to return, but unlike dual wielding, I fully agree. This is a fun customization option and I really like it. Kinda wish we could get playable brutes as well one day, but hey, one thing at a time. Well, as Arbiter makes his way through the heretic's base, he sees the same strange mist and spores from the ring, and when we hear some screams going off in the distance, it's pretty clear what's up. The heretic brought flood samples from the destroyed ring, and they've somehow gotten loose, giving the Arbiter a brand new problem to deal with. Back on Earth, Chief and Johnson are now engaged with a massive Covenant war mech, the Scarab, which is cutting through their forces like a hot knife through butter. Chief and Johnson eventually pin the thing in a nearby canal, and after killing its pilots, the thing explodes. What? You thought there would be more to this thing? Well, not good news. Well, bad news, because you're right. This is one of the things that had to be severely cut back on when they made cuts during development. But hey, if there's a bright side to all this is really one of the only few times where you can actually feel where any cuts were made. They did a really good job covering up the holes, but there are one or two more that we'll get to later. Arbiter finally makes it to the heretic leader, but he locks himself away in his little hidey hole. Arbiter, who's pretty done with this whole situation by now, uses his sword to cut the station from its floaty bits, sending the entire thing into free fall into, well, gas giants don't really have land, but I don't know, a super condensed core? Either way, he sends them all down to a certain death, which makes the bastard jump from his hidey hole, and he makes a mad dash to the hangar where Arbiter meets him. Here we see that the Flood wasn't the only thing returning from the ring, as the living dodgeball himself, 343, appears. Arbiter wonders why what he refers to as the Holy Oracle is working with the Heretic against the Great Journey, and this is when 343 and the Heretic try to explain to the Arbiter that that was all lies made up by the Prophets, and the true purpose of the rings is to destroy. Arbiter seems to be receptive to this new viewpoint, but before things really start to click, we hear the click of the Heretic's guns as he fires on Arbiter, which is probably the dumbest thing you could do right now since you almost brought him to your side, but fuck it, whatever, get sushi'd, bitch! After defeating the Heretic, Tartarus, the leader of the Brutes, shows up to rescue Arby and the dodgeball.
That is the Oracle. So it is. Come, we are leaving this system.
Chief and crew are now back aboard Key's ship, making their way to attack the Prophet of Regret on his capital ship. But before they can get aboard, the bastard starts to rev up his slip space engine with our human protags following him into the slip space portal, leading them to the surprise of a second Halo ring. They land on the ring and man, is this place pretty. This level right here with all the ruins and underwater sections with its own set of ruins, it's so pretty and relaxing. I could totally vacation here to be honest, though maybe I feel like this because I was watching a Hazel video about relaxing Pokemon locations while I recorded this section. That probably did rub off on me a bit, but really look at this level. And in Annversary especially, it's so pretty. Especially when those invisible enemies start mixing with those gorgeous water reflections. Oh man. Check out Hazel's channel if you're into weeb shit. She does a lot of good stuff. I really love her work. Damn it. I'm freaking relaxed now. This place is just so nice and pretty and peaceful. Anyway, this level ends with us brutally beating the Prophet of Regret to death with our bare hands. All those fucking guns, and we still got up close and personal with it. I love it. Also, thank God Keys sent some other troopers to take care of the library this time. I appreciate that immensely. Especially since we're already going through some similar notes already to stop the Covenant from activating the ring. Though as Chief leaves the Prophet's new tomb, he discovers the approach of the entire Covenant armada, including the Holy City High Charity. Which, you know, is bad. But not as bad as the fact that he's snatched up by a giant hentai tentacle and dragged to the bottom of the ocean. What a way to end a level, dude. Just what the fuck were they on? Oh, right. Back on High Charity, the Brutes are revealed to have taken over the role the elites once served as the Prophet's protectors, after the race's recent failures with the First Ring and the Heretic. Afterwards, Arbiter is sent to the second ring to prevent the humans from blowing it up, and it's here that he is informed that the Master Chief is also on the ring.
The human that killed the Prophet of Regret. Who was it? Who do you think? The demon is here?
Oh shit, they refer to him as Demon? I mean, of course they would after all the crazy shit he's done, but man, that is such a cool detail that they see the Chief as an unholy force of nature. Which, if you know the lore, isn't really all that far off. It's just not a demon type of unholy, more like a Frankenstein's monster of unholy.
For a brick, he flew pretty good.
Anyway, Arbiter of the Brutes are sent in to take care of things, dealing with the Flood and the Sentinels as they make their way into the library. Even dealing with a much larger boss Sentinel and getting the chance to use the Sentinel laser, Sentinel laser, which is probably not all that great of a weapon outside of its Flood killing speciality, but hey, I think it's pretty cool. Another thing I really like about this level is when you're going through the library, the Arbiter actually gets to listen to the Marines' comm channel. And the Marines are freaking the fuck out, pretty much exactly like they did during the Flood's introduction in the last game. Like, it's like we're watching that super horrific cutscene, but we're listening to it in real time as it's going on. The Marines are super confident, they all start getting picked off one by the Flood, then they all get overrun, everything goes batshit insane. It's so cool. I'm so glad they did this. This is such a cool detail for the level. After that, the Arbiter meets up with the Shipmaster from earlier in the game, and he mounts up with him and some elites in a kick-ass tank sequence to prevent Johnson and Keys from shutting down the ring with this ring's index. Haha, Keys is the one who goes for the key. That's pretty funny. Well, either way, Arbiter ambushes the two and captures them and the index. Though he never does make it back to High Charity due to Tartarus betraying him and taking the humans and index for himself.
And the prophets learn of this, that they will take your head when they learn. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
And with that, the Arbiter has been fully betrayed by the Covenant he swore his life to. As he resigns himself to his death, he is taken away by the hentai tentacle, waking up in a strange room with the Master Chief being strung up nearby. And a giant, disgusting blob of flesh, wishing to speak to them both. Ew, he looks terrible in OG graphics. Can we just... Oh, there we go. Look at all that bloody-ass flesh and teeth. Now that is what I call a zombie hive mind. He is perfectly disgusting in Annversary. Arbiter really isn't keen on wasting his time to this abomination, but Chief would prefer if we didn't piss it off. The blob introduces himself as
I am a monument to all your sins.
which I'm sure looks terrible on a business card, but he clarifies that he is the grave mind, or the mind part of the Flood hive mind. He's basically their boss and is the one who's controlling them on this installation. This is actually what the Flood were trying to form keys into back on the first Halo, if you were wondering what all that shit was about. He fills Chief and Arbiter in on what the rings actually are, and reasons that if the Covenant wins, we all lose, so hey, why not work together to stop them? The Arbiter is reluctant, of course, but all the same, him and Chief are sent away by the Gravemind using the ring's teleportation grid. They're sent on the two places where the index might be. Arbiter is tasked with heading towards the ring's control room, and Chief is sent to High Charity.
Boo.
Chief starts fighting through the Covenant capital city, but he keeps getting interrupted by swarms of Sangheili rebels fighting the brutes who took their positions. Though don't worry, as both have no qualm about jumping your ass if they see you get too close to their fight, so, watch out for that. Arbiter meets back up with the crew from before, who have now gathered up some other species to fight alongside them in their brute rebellion, including this guy and his hunter friends, who he's very excited to fight with, but they ended up running over him like 5 seconds later. Damn, that's what you get for getting attached too soon. Fucking same, bro. Meanwhile, Chief is fighting through the war zone when he witnesses a UNSC ship crash into the city. And sadly for him, it's not full of helpful Marines, but instead full of unhelpful Flood. The Gravemind is a traitorous dick. Quite literally, actually. I mean, just look how he's shaped. But again, he's not really the top threat right now, and Chief makes it to see a prophet leave one of his brethren behind as he heads towards the center of the city with Chief close behind him. Arbiter makes his way through the brutes, meeting up with Sergeant Johnson in possession of a fucking scarab. Ooh-rah! With the two teaming up to stop the brutes and blasting a hole into the control room, where they see Miranda being the key to activating the ring. They try to talk Tartarus down, but he refuses to betray his religion, and a fight ensues. It's kind of okay. Boss fights in Halo are always kind of trash in my opinion. But hey, his hammer is pretty cool, and you can make the fight go a lot faster by bringing a whole ass Banshee into the arena. It's over, Tartarus. I have the high ground. Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb, Banshee bomb. Fuck you, Banshee bomb! After enough nukes, Tartarus falls, and Keys does a cool little action thing to try and catch the key. Yeah, fuck it, you get it at this point. She grabs the key and shuts down the ring before activation, though Sparky does come in to inform us that there are way more than just 2 rings, including something special known as the Ark. As the final prophet escapes into a ship in the middle of the city, Chief gets ready to go after him, but Cortana wishes to stay behind, reasoning that she needs to be here so she can force the crashed ship to explode like in the first game, destroying the Flood-ridden High Charity and the ring. She refuses to risk a remote detonation due to the severity of a problem the Flood are to the galaxy. Chief promises to come back for her.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
The two say goodbye as Chief just barely makes his way to the Prophet's ship, riding it as it returns to planet Earth. Hood is about to open fire before Chief confirms that he is on board.
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
And that's where it is. Huh? What a fucking cliffhanger. Oh, I thought you left. Yeah, but like, why did it end there? What about Chief? What about the Arbiter? What about Cortana? Well, she's actually shown in the end credits scene promising to answer some questions the Gravemind has, but what about Look, dude? I know it's a real cliffhanger and the devs know that too. They didn't mean for it to be this way, they wanted to finish the fight. Hell, the original plans had the entirety of Halo 3's story packed into this one, which is crazy. But they didn't have the time or resources, so they had to make the best of what they had. Joseph Staten has even been quoted as saying that he hoped the ending would be an Empire Strikes Back sort of thing, to get fans excited for what's to come, and oh boy were they. But this was controversial when it first happened, and I get that. But let's be happy that the game was such a success anyway that they got to finish the fight at all. I'm gonna go play Halo 3. Alright, see you there. Now, all of that aside, what do I personally think about the story? Well, I, like most people, think that the story is the best in Halo. The dialogue is so funny and badass when it needs to be.
What the ladies like.
Not to mention the introduction of the crazy manipulative prophets and the Gravemind, who's very intimidating and lore-wise really cool, but just kind of exists in the game. He's being built up for next time, so I guess we'll discuss him more then. Otherwise, I can go on describing each of the character details and how much they add to the overall adventure. Everybody here is amazing and their actors are doing a phenomenal job. And the character that exemplifies all of this perfectly is the Arbiter. He is a phenomenal character that at first was low-key hated for taking time away from Chief, but now nobody will shut up about how they want him back. Which, obviously, yeah, he's one of the only characters with an arc in these games. Arbiter or Thelvadam or Thalvadami, I don't know which one's correct, but the Arbiter was extremely loyal to the Covenant, carrying out mission after mission, but one failure was enough for them to throw him away. And then after that, he was forced to stand against what he was once loyal to save all life in the galaxy. That must have been so hard for him. I mean, we've all had a crisis of faith before, and you don't even have to be religious to have it. It can be anything you love or put your love and trust into that betrays it. Arbiter refuses to believe the Covenant could be a problem until it pushes him off a cliff, and then the truth is shoved right in his face, and even then he refuses. Also, I know that's not truth, but you get what I mean. He fought so hard, and it led him down a path that kept his people enslaved for thousands of years. In the new terminals added in Annversary, we learn a lot about the Arbiter and the title in general. It's a bit of a jerk off, to be honest, but we learn so much about how the Prophets bent the Sangheili to its knees and took their grand title of Arbiter and made it something to be spat upon. Now with Thal at the helm, it serves as a new freedom from the Prophet's control. With his blade that he now severs the chains, he now calls his factions the Sword of Sangheili. That's so badass! No wonder everyone loves this guy, and Keith David as the VA, oh god, it's perfect. His voice is so deep, so strong, but also rings with a bit of pain. It's what makes him so good as tragic characters like Goliath, or Spawn, or Gary?
Hello there, Papa Bob.
Arbiter is the glue that ties this game's story together. This is really more his game than it is the Chief. Without him, this game wouldn't be half as interesting. Which makes it all the more sad he's just in the background after this. I get why in newer stuff, but in like Halo 3? We'll get there. Halo 2's story absolutely feels like it was cut together in a strange collage-like way. But the original did the same thing, and somehow I think both led to really good stories, especially in 2's case. And that's Halo 2, a brilliant game despite the hell it took to make it. Man, that's gotta be so weird for the original developers. Everyone always praising how wonderful and inventive the game is. And the ones who made it probably can never look at it in that light. It's tragic. But we'll get to see more of their vision next time, so let's not dwell on this too much more. Halo 2 is a fantastic game that I highly recommend. It has one of the best stories / character arcs in the series, though I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite campaign, and that mostly comes down to the gameplay. I'm not really too big on how weak your shield is, especially on higher difficulties, and I'm super not into dual wielding outside of it being a cool visual. And the brutes are just kind of which is disappointing knowing the role they're supposed to be replacing. But in that same breath, the controls are so much more tighter and snappier, in a way that you can see why this was the one to bring the competitive scene to Halo, outside of it being the first to be playable online. Or second to be playable. If you fucking get it. The music is stellar and the art, God, it has its hiccups, but if you're playing an Annversary where they had the chance to touch some things up, I think you could argue that this may be one of the best looking games, especially those cutscenes in the series. And oh my god, the terminal with the grunt uprising is amazing! Those little fuckers can mess shit up with the right motivation. Halo 2 is amazing, and I can't wait to see where we go next.